support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of New York, that I will faithfully discharge the duties of the office of trustee for the Goshen Public Library and Historical Society according to the best of my ability. And I do further solemnly swear that I have not directly or indirectly paid, offered, or promised to pay, contributed, or offered, or promised to contribute any money or other valuable thing as a consideration or reward for the giving or withholding a vote at the election at which I was elected to said office, and have not made any promise to influence the giving or withholding any such vote.
I, Megan Borodin, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of New York, and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of the office of trustee for the Goshen Public Library and Historical Society, according to the best of my ability. And I do further solemnly swear that I have not directly or indirectly paid, offered, or promised to pay, contributed, or offered, or promised to contribute any money or other valuable thing as a consideration or reward for the giving or withholding a vote at the election at which I was elected to said office, and have not made any promise to influence the giving or withholding any such vote.
My turn. I, Emily Collado, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of New York, and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of the office of trustee for the Goshen Public Library and Historical Society according to the best of my ability. And I do further solemnly swear that I have not directly or indirectly paid, offered, or promised to pay, contributed, or offered, or promised to contribute any money or other valuable thing as a consideration or reward for the giving or withholding a vote at the election at which I was elected to the said office, and have not made any promise to influence the giving or withholding any such vote.
Congratulations.
Welcome aboard.
Privilege of the floor. Have nobody here aside from Alan, who have a privilege of the floor for a while. Does anybody have any changes to the minutes of the March 9th meeting? No changes. Can I have a motion made to accept the minutes for the March 9th meeting? And Mary made that motion, who's Bernie? Seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Jack, you're on.
Awesome, thanks Keith. Congratulations to the board in general for a great budget vote, and congratulations to Megan, Jim, and Emily on elections, so glad we had a good week last week. We have the report here through March, which is 3/4 of the way through the year. April, May, June, right, there's 1 quarter left. And as you can see, we're more or less staying course where we had been. The library charges were a little better in March than they were in February because we didn't have all the closures and, you know, I guess the library being more open and people catching up with their fines and all. And the salary line is staying. I think it's, for the month, it was actually down almost another 1,000, 922. So you can see year to date we're $7,500 under budget on salaries. The employee benefits line is staying where it's been mainly because of the retirement bill, and the health insurance is staying in check. It didn't go up as much as we feared it might go up. It still went up 8%, but Matt and I were worried it could be 12 or 13%. The books, I spent Friday entering some more books from Baker and Taylor, almost $2,000 worth, but there's still a ton of them up there. So I would, again, just assume that the books are basically going to end the year right on budget. Because you can see the adult line, it's 2,000 under, but when you add in what's not entered, that line might be actually over a little bit, but the whole subcategory will probably be right on budget. Building repairs, we still have that money that we're waiting to, utilize. That's a big chunk of why the whole total budget is under, which I'll get to in a minute, but the 16,000 under. Oh, the answer bill, we didn't pay that, but that just came in the mail the other day, the final answer bill for the year. I was expecting to see that, but that just came the other day. We'll pay that for the last quarter of that. And more or less, nothing else really stands out. And as you can see, total spending, 956, almost 957. Total budget, 1,009,000 roughly, 52 under. But then when you account for the books not entered, and then that last answer payment, we're really running probably about 30 to 35,000 under budget. So more or less, we're staying where we're at. The balance sheet was as of March 31st. You could see the key checking was getting low, and then we had another two payrolls since then. So we moved money last week, 100,000 from the Orange County Trust account to the key account, and then today I got a call from the school that we got our last 10% check, another 124,000. It was later in the afternoon, so tomorrow I'll deposit it, I guess, into the key account, just because we only moved 100, and now with payroll this week, the 100 will probably be down to like 70. So if we put it in Orange County, it's only going to be there for a couple weeks. So I'll probably deposit into Key Bank tomorrow.
What was the amount again, Jack?
$124,000. Yeah, $124,000, $766. It was 10% of the grand total. So that was the last one. So now the next one will be at the end of September. But when you add that into our cash, you see we're probably over 600,000 total. But now we're not going to get anything else for another 5 or 6 months. But I think we're still on track to end the year with 200 and some odd thousand left, probably 220 or 230 at the end of the year. So we're staying on track where we anticipated. And I guess that's about it.
Okay. Any questions for Jack?
I have on the professional services line, well, that looks like we're at $2,600.
All right, Paul Maines, right.
Right, do we have to move money to cover that, or?
I don't think we did that last year.
I don't think we did either, that's what I'm
No,
asking.
because the whole bottom line is doing so well that, the
Like,
whole.
do we have to move it from, that one thing that was under, that's what I was wondering.
Yeah, if we had to move, I mean, there's,
Services
yeah.
I'm sorry, what was your original question, Emma?
or- The professional services is
Yeah.
$8,600 over budget,
Mm.
and I was wondering if we needed to move money to, coming up, doesn't matter. Do we
Well, you don't
fund
need
that
to
line?
make a journal entry, is that, we
Yeah,
had
that's
that
what I'm
discussion
asking.
about school
Yeah, we
districts
did,
have to do that, we don't.
Right, because we don't, right, I
The
wasn't
bottom
sure.
line is really at the end of the, but we
I
do have
know
to
we
budget more
discussed
for
it,
next
but I
year.
don't know
Mhm.
Yeah,
that we came to a conclusion about it.
we're not
That's-
bound to do it as a,
Okay, so we're good.
we're good.
Does it help you when you create the budget in December, January? If you see a journal entry would sort of force you to see, oh, we needed more money in that line. So it might be a way to keep us on track of.
We actually, I think I like it the other way around, because to see at the end where things were actually over before we move money around allows you
Okay.
to kind of map it out and
So
know where
you'll-
you're,
you'll be-
forward
It'll
to.
stand
that
out
way.
in that regard, right.
Okay, good.
I think we did that with the salary line a couple times,
I think we did too,
because that, with
Danny.
Danny, right,
Yeah.
right. So the salary line, when you account for that, we're really doing well.
Sure.
Because he's saving us on other lines, but his, the extra work he's doing, then we're really doing well on the salaries line.
Okay.
So,
Thank you.
A question about that. I know the last couple of meetings you said we're running under on the salary line. Why is that?
well, we had Linda Peterson left. I mean, her position was replaced, but there might have been a net change in salary slightly there. And I just,
There
and
definitely was, that was a big part of it.
yeah, that was right. That probably accounts for a lot of it right there. And more or less everything else, I guess we're just keeping to what we had planned last year. So, to be 7,000 off, that probably accounts for most of that 7,000 right there.
And hours weren't increased for other people to compensate for?
No, because somebody replaced her, so it's just that they
Okay.
replaced her at a lower salary.
Right. And that also helped with the health insurance line too.
Sure.
The health insurance did go up, but it only went up 8%. But it looks like we're doing great, but it's because we had a couple of people leave. So we can't count on that every single year. But for this year, it's been helping us a lot.
No more questions? Can I have a motion to accept the the treasurer's report? Motion made by Norma, seconded by Jim. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? No. So,
Thank you, Keith.
okay, Jeff.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Jeff.
Have a great night. Thank you. I know.
Nice seeing you again.
Mr. Berger? It's up to you. It's your time.
Oh, okay. Well, as I explained to Matt, we don't, I didn't come with a presentation. There is no presentation per se. It's really just a conversation to find out what we might be able to do to help you, and what it is you're looking to accomplish. So, in conversations with Matt, we already know that. Oh, by the way, congratulations on your vote too. Say 164-23. That was a nice vote. And for those of you who, boy, you're all so
I
you're
think
all
they're all new.
yeah, all new. So we worked with this board many years ago, way prior to your last failed vote referendum. Also, the last. You probably had one since, but a strategic plan since, or no? Because we work with the library on a strategic plan.
We put together our own, but not with a consultant.
Yeah. So the one previous to that is probably the one we worked with
That's
you,
right.
which was maybe 7 or 8 years ago.
Yes.
Right? So we did quite a bit of work up here. I remember being in this room quite a few times. So also, as Matt knows, some the others may know as well, we worked with Warwick many, many years and worked with them on helping them win their referendum when they won a referendum for a new library. And recently we worked with Washingtonville on a referendum that they won too, almost 3-1, by the way. So I guess what the conversation is about, for as long as you want to or as long as you have, is to discuss a little bit what you have in mind accomplishing, what your plans are. I understand from Matt that you now, congratulations, own that property in total, right? I remember when that was being purchased. I remember the controversy. I remember the plan at the time. So now you own it, and which I was, you told me about when we had that conversation. And so I understand, Eric, correct me if I'm wrong, your goal is to build a new library on that site, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And you still need to get a referendum passed because you need to bond it,
Yes.
correct?
Yeah.
So it's not being done with private funds, it's being done all with public funds, right? And you want to have a referendum vote sometime next fall. Yeah, so far so good?
Yes.
Okay, so let's talk about it. What would you like?
What do we need to do to get a 3-1
Yeah.
referendum?
Or what would you do for us to guide us in the process to get to the referendum? What are the steps that you would take us through?
So if I recall, last time you lost by more than 2-1. Well, and the no vote was what, 2,500, 2,600?
Yeah.
I should have written it down, but it was around there, right?
Substantial.
So I would, again, I'm sure the world has changed considerably in Goshen, but and in the library. But let's assume you still need to get 3,500 yes votes to win it. Okay? So the question then is, how do you get 3,500 yes votes? That's the real question. Because you're not going to get 3,500 no votes, or 4,000, whatever that number is. So we need to determine what's that number of yes votes that you need to accomplish. And then the question is, how do we get there, right? So we would guide you in getting those number of yes votes over the period of time that we'd work with you, 6 months, 8 months, whenever it is you're determined to do that. And we don't do the work for you, by the way. Both in Warwick and in Washingtonville, It was done by groups of supporters and advocates, and what we did was guide them towards what they needed to accomplish. But we don't do the work. We work as a consultant. We work giving you advice. We kind of direct you and try to keep you focused, because it's very easy to become unfocused in this process. And our goal is to get you 3,500 or 4,000 yes votes. So here's first question. So the first question for you today is, if this vote was held next week, and what are we talking? What is the bond? 10 million?
No.
We don't have a definite number yet.
Well,
There's
estimate.
total
Estimate.
working
we're
numbers.
Working
Starting.
with is, for the entire project, is 8.9 million.
Okay, so call it $9 million. And do we have private funds to
No.
put into it?
Not yet.
No,
Not yet.
or not yet?
Not yet, that's after this.
Just
We
the,
we're
right, the
already
land,
on the
which is,
land.
okay.
Right.
By saying not yet, that means what? That we anticipate
I'm assuming that we'll have a capital campaign.
of,
And, pardon me?
of what? $1 million, $2 million, $3 million?
How much do you think?
Yeah.
I think if we get $500,000, I would be in that range, I would expect.
Oh,
Hope-
okay.
You know, hope.
So minimal,
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, last time we only got about $100,000,
right.
and that was
Yeah, and if I remember,
almost 3 times.
and you paid a guy to do a feasibility study, I think he was
I
paid
don't know.
$20,000 or $30,000, if I recall.
Don't know, I wasn't
Yeah.
on board at the time.
Right? Am I right?
I
It was.
I'm
And I remember telling them not to do that.
Didn't Warwick do a capital campaign?
A little one,
A little one?
but they
Okay.
bonded for the full amount.
Okay.
Yeah. So they bonded, because they didn't
Their
anticipate
land was
that they,
donated too, wasn't it?
Mhm.
yeah,
Their
by the
land
developer.
donated,
Oh,
Mhm.
okay.
So if this vote was held next week, would you win?
Don't know.
yeah. I don't know, I think we probably might, but it would be
Could.
close. I think it would be close, but we might.
Okay, so possible, we might, maybe, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And why do you think you would win?
It's a big difference with what we're putting to the voters
Uh-huh.
versus what was done last time.
Mm-hmm.
The building itself is the selling point, you know, the architectural rendering,
Mm-hmm.
what it's gonna look like.
Mhm.
It's beautiful.
We seem to have a buzz. We have a lot of people that seem to be behind this.
There's more
So,
enthusiasm about this
we-
project than the last.
We've purchased and paid off the land, and that was what, 600,000?
650.
So, and what are we in at? Half the cost?
It's
At
less than half
at least half
the
the
cost.
cost.
Yeah,
of the other
So-
referendum.
yeah. Yeah, oh, yeah. It's
Is
less
that
than
right?
half.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's less than half the cost
Really?
of the other
Wow.
referendum. And the building is almost the same
That other
size.
referendum, the first referendum
The
was
first
for,
referendum was for $20 million for a
Wow,
24,000
was it
square foot
really?
building. and
I don't even
I
remember
think
that.
it was 30,000.
I think it
that
was
one.
30, yes,
30,000
and this
and-
is
Around 20.
This is
around
about
20.
20 for
Huh.
8.9.
yeah.
The 8.9, I think, includes the price of the land, right?
Yes.
I think you're
Yes.
right, yeah.
Oh, it
They
does?
added that.
Yeah, we factored in the whole cost of the whole project.
Uh-huh.
What's
we
left?
included
Right.
this.
Yeah.
Well, the most recent
No,
costing
what
that
do
you
you-
have, right?
No, the entire cost for the whole project, the 8.9 included
She-
the land.
The 600,
had that
includes the
already.
600,000.
Yeah.
650 for the land.
Because we had a discussion as to whether or not that number should be included
Mhm.
as part of the, what we go to the
Mm.
public with, because since we already own that, that's not money
Right.
we need
Right.
to pay
But
off the
the whole
land.
project would cost
Yeah.
8.9, but we'll probably bond for 8.5 or something.
And
If we're gonna do that,
Or not?
I forget what she
are we
said.
gonna ask for a referendum that says 8.9?
I don't know.
Yes.
I think
Well,
it
we
is,
have to
yeah.
wait until they give us,
You gotta get
we have
cost it
a
out.
firm
We have
number.
to-
That
Yeah,
is
you
a
gotta-
working number, that's
Right,
not a,
right.
that's
We
not
don't
a
have
firm
the
number.
numbers
But
yet,
yes.
but-
But if the firm
but we
number
wanted the
is,
total number
is
under 9.
8.3, and you're counting 600 for the land, 8.9, some people are gonna say, why, if it's 8.3, why do you wanna ask for 8.9? What are you gonna do with the extra 600,000?
We're not.
We're not gonna
We're not
ask
doing
for
that.
it, we're
You
gonna
You
tell
won't,
them
you won't draw
cost
it
of the
down,
project.
and the gift will be, the gift from the library will be the 600,000.
Right, the
Yeah,
point
we
is the
asked
whole
her to
project,
take
we
that
told
out.
her to keep it under
Okay.
9 million, and 8.9 would include the 650 for the land.
So
hoping
20,000
to
square
sell-
feet, one floor, two floors?
Two floors.
2 floors.
Really? 20,000, two
It's beautiful.
floors?
Mhm.
Yeah, okay. All right, so we're positive, we're thinking positively, and
Mhm.
you have momentum, and you have, as you say, some buzz, and Is anybody convinced that if you had that vote next week, you would win it?
I think I do.
Yeah?
I think we have a good, the image of the library, the services that it provides, the programs that it provides to a wide variety of patrons, particularly young families with young children. The numbers themselves, the numbers speak for themselves because we have waiting lists for some of our programs, our award-winning programs, I should say. We have waiting lists, and also now our adult programs are beginning to develop waiting lists.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the image of the library in the community is a very positive one.
Mm-hmm.
That it is a welcoming place for everyone.
How many card holders do we have?
7,000,
And what's the population?
roughly 20,000.
So not even 50%. Can you get it to 60, 70% before the vote?
I can try.
No, not if it's in November, right? Can you get it to 50% before the vote?
Only first graders can vote.
Well, they should have a card, though.
They are, and that's one of the services that we provide is our young, our
We get them when they're 6.
our library, our children's
So
librarian makes
7,000 out of 19,000. Okay. How many, and I know I looked before, how many Facebook followers do we have?
Carol, Facebook followers?
Oh, it's new, so it's
Right.
maybe about
300,
200.
400, 200, okay.
This week with the vote, it was increased by 95%.
Good.
We did good.
That's good.
And we don't have an email newsletter, do we?
We have a
We have a
newsletter.
newsletter.
An email newsletter.
No, we can't get people signed up for it.
We don't have an email.
We could do that, but pretty well, we could work on that. We just have recently started the last couple of months collecting addresses. We have a button on our site that invites people to write in their email address. We could start to use that. Right now, the database is fairly small, but we're
Well, what's your email database from RCLS? How big is that, with email addresses in it?
that would be every card holder.
Every card holder has an email address?
90% of them probably.
Really?
I would imagine.
So then that would be
It's
6,000,
kids.
around
Yeah.
6,000 names. Okay,
Something like that. I mean, that's just a guess, but I
Yeah. all right.
So we could send out an email to about, let's say, 5,000 card holders. Do we have the ability to do that?
Not so much.
Why not?
You have to get permission.
Why not?
That's not what the RTLS database is for.
Yeah, you have to
Of
get
course it
permission.
is.
Well, this
Of course it is.
is one of the raging battles in the
Just
library
what,
world.
what other board do you
Okay,
sit on?
so let me make it clear
Just
today.
once.
Without using that database, you're not gonna win the vote. It's that simple. Without building Facebook, you're not gonna win the vote. So if you have qualms about an old practice that makes no sense in today's world, you're not gonna win the vote. So when people sign up for a library card and they give you your email address, basically what they're telling you is that they want to know about what's going on in the library. So if you do initiate an email newsletter, you can always put an unsubscribe button, right, like everyone else does, and let people opt out of it. But the old notions of well, we can't, it's sacrosanct, their email address I mean, at one point, 15 years ago, there was no email address that people were giving you. So it's a different world, and we need to use the tools that we have available to
No,
us.
I
but
agree.
but I will guarantee you will not win it without using that database.
I just want these folks here that aren't in the world the way we are to know that you have the Robert Hugers of the world that are anti using that for anything except for it's private information they've given us is not for solicitations, and then you have
It's
other
your
people-
database. It's not his.
Oh, yeah, but
You
here's
own
the
it.
thing.
Right?
It depends on what they gave it to us for. If you start sending people email and they didn't approve it ahead of time, it's spam, and you'll get reported for it, and we don't want that. We really don't. If they didn't sign up for a newsletter, if they didn't give us permission to use their email address that way, we will get ourselves in trouble.
How else?
You won't
do
get in
they
trouble
use-
with anybody.
Yeah,
How
you will.
else
You'll
do
get
they
reported
use-
as spam.
Okay.
To
How
remind,
else do they use the email address?
to remind
So
you when
we'll
your
remind
book
you
is
if
overdue.
Your book is
Yeah,
overdue.
yeah, when your books are overdue.
When your books
Or
are
when
overdue,
you
you
pick
get
up
it,
a
but
book.
that's what you agreed to. Here's my email address, so you can tell me when the book I ordered is in, and here's the email address, you can tell me when it's overdue.
So really, the crux of it is we need to check
Right,
the
we
verbiage
just
as
need
to
them
when
to
they signed
check
up for a
about-
card.
What is the
Right.
verbiage?
All
Yeah.
it,
Yeah,
right,
what
there
we
just
should
has
do
to
that.
be an opt-in thing.
Yeah,
If
did
people
they-
don't physically opt in, they report us as spam.
Because there may be some language in there that allows it on umbrella statement.
Mhm.
Yeah. Part of the issue with RCLS is going to be
RCLS gave it to Warwick, it's their database. RCLS gave it to
Okay.
Washingtonville,
That's-
it's their database. So it's, WLS gives it to every one of their libraries that we work with. So every consortia, Buckles, every consortia is now giving it to the libraries who own it. Bibliomation, they all are, because the libraries own it. So what you do with that database is up to you, not up to the consortia that you belong to. And as long as you put an unsubscribe, safe unsubscribe button, then really you're meeting your obligation. Because if people don't want to receive that email newsletter from you, they just opt out. It's really that simple.
I'm just curious, does the ALA have a stance on this?
No,
Have you ever even looked
not
into it?
anymore.
Okay.
Not
So it's
anymore.
Sort of a,
You got to get over it. That's the way the world used to work. That's not the way the world works today.
So
And
how-
if we can't convince you to use an email newsletter, then we wouldn't be interested in the project.
Warwick and Washingtonville sent out emails.
Well, that's how they
that
want
limit-
it. Well, that's how they want it. They want it through Facebook. They want it through email newsletters. That's how we won those votes.
Okay. And do we have those email addresses?
Yeah, we'll have to
Is
get-
it a request
okay.
we have to put in RCLS?
Yeah, what's his name? The tech guy?
Robert?
Kuntz, Jerry.
Jerry. You just ask Jerry, and Jerry will get it for you.
Do you think do you think there's more power in just the, I'm not saying, but in the social media than there is in the actual, using our database specifically? Have you found that you get a pretty
Well, you
good
need
boost
both.
from
You need to
the-
do both. You need to do both. You need to communicate where people are. So, let me see. Let me give you an example. In New City, right, another RCLS, as well as Suffern, we did surveys in both of those libraries recently. And we asked people, how would you like the library to communicate with you? 70 to 80% of people, what did they say? A weekly email newsletter. That's how they want people to communicate with them. Because that's where people are today,
Okay.
of all ages, right? So it's important that you build that database. If you don't want to use the one from RCLS, can you build a 5,000 email database in enough time
Right.
to get information to people?
If Warwick got it and Washingtonville got it, I think we should do it. I mean, it doesn't make any sense not to.
Well, you have some disagreements on your board, so you're going to have to work through those issues internally.
I think we're in a learning situation here. That's the whole point.
Because I think, just looking at the body language, I think you have two members. I think you have two members who are very much opposed.
well, there's some legwork to be done, and primarily what do they sign up for?
Do you have an attorney for the board?
And then the second thing is possibly we might use the address to send a one-time email out to everybody.
Yeah,
Right, well, see,
saying-
that's what I was thinking,
Yeah.
send a one-time email to allow them to opt in,
right, exactly.
Mm.
right,
Or opt
instead of
out.
No, opt
ambushing
out.
them.
Or opt out.
Opt out,
Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
but much, whatever, opt out, but my point is,
Yes.
give them
Important
that
distinction.
option, so there's a,
Yeah,
right, because you can't just suddenly say, I gave this to you so that you could tell me when my books are in, and now you're inundating my my
But we-
mailbox
Right.
with stuff
Yeah, but
about
if you,
your.
if you say we're planning to do a weekly list of activities at the library, would you like that, or would you not?
so,
Maybe we
Just-
70% of 5,000, that's a tremendous number of people.
Whatever, but my point is, if you gotta let them have an active
Right.
decision, so
Right.
that when the time comes
Sure.
and they go, I didn't want this, you go, yeah, you had your opportunity. You know what I mean, like
Mhm.
people have to have that.
well, they can opt out any time you send it to
Well,
them.
right, no, my
right?
point is.
So
that
if you use
someone-
like a constant contact, there's always
Right, but
an opt
constant
out.
contact makes people physically opt in. In order to use constant contact, or, I'm trying to think of half a dozen of them, but.
Yeah.
in order to use-
MailChimp, constant contact.
Right,
they're all-
MailChimp,
but
all of those, you have to not only sign up, but then you have to verify it with.
Only if you want it to,
Right.
only if you want to.
Yeah.
Right, But I'm saying that we should have to do something in order to cover ourselves.
So here's what we've learned.
A link to, like our Facebook, whatever we put in there, we should.
Right.
So here's what we've learned, that people love, and if what you're saying is true about the buzz and the momentum you've created, this is not a nuclear power plant. This is a library. It's a public library. People love public libraries. And they welcome getting information from the library. And it's not like getting information from Lord & Taylor or Macy's or I'm trying to think of all these ridiculous other places that just send out tons and tons of email. It's not the same. And we shouldn't treat it the same or think of it as the same. So just thinking and going back to what we were talking about, again, here's what we've learned from the elections in 2008, the elections in 2012, right? And the elections in 2014. We've learned that the most powerful asset that candidates have is an email database. Nothing is more powerful. Zero, nothing. So we need to have that as well. Whether it's from RCLS, whether we combine it with one that you make, which I don't think you can get 5,000 email addresses quickly enough. But maybe you can, I don't know. So here's what we do. We take the super voter list, right? And we match that up with, where possible, an email database. And
What is a super voter list?
Super voter list is people who voted in the last elections in this area, whether it was for state senator or whether it was for governor. So those people who are in your school district, this is a school district library, right? So those people who are in the school district and have voted will be in the super voter list. So we're going to want to take a look at that super voter list. We have a friends group, right? Mm-hmm. We have a real active friends group. Yeah. Great. So we're probably going to have them do this or create another committee to do it. We're going to have them take a look at the super voter list and start classifying people as yes voters.
On the basis of?
Well, if they receive our email newsletter, more than likely they're a yes voter. So here's where we classify people. A third of all residents will vote for anything you ask them to vote for if it has to do with the library. They love the library, right? 7,000 people, maybe it's less who have cards. They love the library. They'll do anything you ask them to do. They'll donate money. They'll come to an event. They'll do anything. So first thing we want to do is identify that that top third of the voters, because those are the people who are going to deliver a successful referendum. The second third are people who might likely and would want to vote for you and would be happy to vote for the library and vote for a referendum. We just need to make sure they have enough information to make that decision. And those are the people who we want spoken to and communicated with. That other third, we're not going to do anything with them. You may, as the library board, right, because you have to communicate with everybody. That's your responsibility. This separate committee that we're going to create with the friends will only be interested in communicating with people who we feel are going to be yes voters. And then they get out to vote. Just like anybody else running for an election, running for an office, right? They get out to vote. Didn't a couple of you just run for this board?
Yeah.
Did you do a get out the vote campign a little bit?
Yeah, we did.
You did?
Facebook. We were on Facebook.
The two of you?
Yep.
Or three of you?
My daughter was on Facebook with me, so 2.5.
So how valuable was that, do you think?
That was our number one campaign strategy. Megan and I campaigned together because we have a lot of the same people. There was overlap, so we took it right to Facebook and kept sharing, getting people to like us.
Good.
We had a strategy of how many days beforehand we're gonna bother everybody and let them know and get the info.
And how many followers did you get up to?
Not a ton.
Not a ton.
How many?
50? Maybe?
Oh, what, this is a combined page
Yeah.
that the two of you?
Yeah.
I see. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it worked.
But it was enough to win, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. And that's the same strategy we'll follow for our Get Out the Vote, to win the referendum.
And how much time do you need between the time you start working with us and the vote?
Never enough.
Ballpark it for me.
Well, we're looking for November.
Right, so when would you need to know whether we wanted to hire you or not? June?
Pretty
May?
soon, pretty
Yeah.
soon,
Pretty
yeah.
soon.
Because you now have the summer, which is difficult at best to do anything.
Sure,
So-
August is worthless, so.
So that means what? That means you have September and October,
Mhm.
because you're not gonna do it after Thanksgiving. So that means you have basically 2 months to 2.5 months to do all that work.
Mhm.
It's pretty tough.
We'll do it.
Okay,
Okay.
all right. So that even makes the case why we need to start tomorrow of getting our Facebook page to, 300 by next week, 400 by the following week, 500 by the following week, and just keep, send this page to your friends to like us and do a little contest or something. Same thing with an email database. Getting that email database, or if you're unwilling to use it, building your own new email database, and maybe having a contest, do a giveaway of a Kindle or something, give us your email address, but building that database.
Is there a way to do a like us on Facebook, that link on those emails that go out to patrons about, book coming due or whatever?
Yeah.
Not on those emails.
How
No,
would they,
it'd be a
the
separate
system?
I'm pretty sure it'd be a separate system because that comes right out from RCLS.
Oh.
We'd be
Oh,
getting the
yes.
email addresses
Gotcha.
and putting it into our own contact database. So, and that's, I think it's plain text. I think the
Yes.
emails are plain text, so
Yes.
they probably can't alter
Oh,
those.
okay.
Yeah, there's no links, there's no nothing. It's kind of low tech and
It sounds like
old
we,
school.
We can afford
it sounds like we need to discuss about using the email addresses.
And how-
That's what I'm sensing. But we can pursue getting it, whether we do nothing with it, but at least, start that
Yeah, Jerry will give it to you.
in motion. And we'll have another discussion on
Do we
how,
have Twitter
and
also?
if we're gonna use it.
We have a Twitter, don't we? I
think
don't know
we
that
do.
we ever tweet anything.
I think it's set up with Hootsuite.
To-
I think
yeah,
her stuff
and
is set up.
Jen-
Is it
is
still-
Jen still taking care of it?
Yes, yes, she
And
does.
and it posts automatically to Facebook.
So you saw what
Tweets and
the,
hits Facebook at the
we
same
saw what the
time.
Pew Research Trust said last week, right? They said, contrary to what everyone's saying, 71% of teenagers are still checking their Facebook page every day and still checking Facebook every day, right? So even though people are saying, oh, no one uses it anymore, kids don't use it anymore, that's not true.
Yeah.
Well, actually, it's actually in our interest if it's middle-aged people because the teenagers
Who
can't
vote. Well, but their mom and dad vote.
Oh, yeah, but
Yeah.
they don't talk to their mom and
Yeah,
dad.
the impact is the really small children who are checking their Facebook page that are telling their parents they want to come
Yeah,
vote with
right.
us.
Well, I don't know. I think at Washingtonville, the kids who were involved with the Facebook page and who, I think they had an effect. And then eventually, many of them volunteered to work on the campaign.
So wait, I'm sorry. When you worked with Warwick and Washingtonville,
Yeah.
you were basically, you set up umbrella groups, different groups, and then you would come in and sit with those groups and map out strategies?
Mhm.
Is that what you would
Mhm.
do on a weekly, bi-weekly?
As needed, yeah.
As needed?
Mhm.
Okay. And.
Well, I think there's a parallel. So there's a parallel. One is with that group, right? And the other is with the library and the board. Because we would want to talk to you about some things on the floor, about some things to do with the collection, about some things to do with, like when we talk about waiting lists, I think, it's something we're probably going to want to talk about. Does having waiting lists help us at this point? Does it hurt us at this point? How would it impact a referendum vote, right? Are people angry or do they want more because we have waiting lists? What is the effect of the waiting list today? Do we know?
Some people might go away grumpy, or parents stay up on Facebook and sign their kid up.
Right, so, so things like that we need to think through and see what the next 6 months would hold for wait lists, for the collection, for other things like
I
that.
have just a due diligence question. Have there been libraries you've worked with where the referendums didn't pass?
No.
Okay,
We haven't worked with that many.
okay.
But we did in Savannah, Georgia. We did in Denver, Colorado. We have in Warwick and in Warwick and Washingtonville,
Where are you based out of?
Princeton, New Jersey.
Okay.
Those are the only two in Orange County that you've worked with?
Yeah.
In-
Mhm.
Okay. Have you ever worked with Paul Mays and that?
Yeah, both of those.
Both?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, that's.
So
yeah,
we met
sorry.
Paul in
Yeah.
Warwick, right? We met
Okay.
Paul in Warwick. But we had already known this, I mean, long before Warwick, we had been working in Goshen. We knew Pauline. We had been working up here. We did a lot of work with RCLS too. We assisted them, wrote one of their strategic plans as well. And we're working with New City. Oh, we're working with New City and Suffern right now in RCLS too.
And how do you get paid?
Cash.
On small, on
So a
market?
project like this, it's basically hourly. So that way, it wouldn't be a project cost.
I'm sorry, say that again.
A project like this would be hourly, it would not be a project
Hourly,
cost.
okay.
Yeah, so we'd give you an hourly fee, and then we also charge you for expenses, travel and things like that. I would say in Washingtonville, that project, I can't imagine it was more than $10,000. It's pretty conservative, you know? I mean, I think you can probably talk to a few other people, and they're gonna be talking to you about $20,000 or $30,000 to do basically the same thing. Yes?
Our last referendum vote was, and I can't remember the exact numbers offhand, but you were speaking this evening of 3,000 yes votes
Yeah.
that we would need to.
Or more.
We didn't have 3,000 votes negative last time. It was, our whole entire vote was not 3,000 voters.
No?
I think it was 1,700 no votes, something like that. Numbers
Yes.
in my mind.
But
It
it's
was
still
the
2 to 1 or
600
3 to
Yeah,
1.
it may be
Yeah,
Yeah.
600, yeah,
Positive.
was, you know,
Got
maybe
it.
about our
Okay.
yes votes. When I'm saying that, I'm wondering why you feel that we need so many yes votes.
Well, I wasn't sure of them.
Traditionally, Goshen people don't come out to vote in the library.
Right. Well, I wasn't sure of the numbers, but if last time we had 1,700 or so no votes,
Yeah.
then I'd probably be more comfortable with getting 2,000 to 2,500 yes votes.
At least
In Warwick,
2,000 votes
in
seems
Warwick,
doable.
in Warwick, we had 4,500 names on the yes database.
How many
Yes.
people actually came out to vote
How
on the
many people
referendum?
I don't remember.
Because we don't generally get a big turnout for anything.
Well, no
That
one
was-
does.
No, I know, but that was, they were motivated because they were very angry, and that's why we had so many no votes.
You're
I
right.
don't expect
You're right.
the same sort of reaction to this, that, you know, I haven't heard any negative from anyone so far about
Right.
this new plan of ours, so I don't imagine the same sort of vitriol will be at work.
Okay. Well,
But it's funny, I remember thinking that day, even though it went down so dramatically, 1,700 no votes, let's say 900 yes votes. So there was a spread of 800, which meant if you could only get 400 of those 800 in that spread, 400 people could change, become no's, become yeses, it would have passed. In other words, it wasn't as devastating as you think. There were a lot of people who were extremely angry for a variety of reasons, plus the economy in the nation was going south.
what year was that again?
08, 07, 08? What was it?
2008.
Yeah,
Was it 8?
Yeah, it was.
Okay.
So that's why this process, we don't spend our time, and we don't want you to spend your time convincing people. We'd rather you spend your time identifying people who are gonna vote yes. And then we spend our energy, our time, well, the friends' energy, the friends' time, on, and new volunteers to that, finding who those people are, identifying who they are, staying in touch with them, and making sure they come out to vote. It's really, it's cleaner, it makes more sense doing it that way, yes.
And I just had one more question.
Sure.
Is it- Where do you get this super voter list?
We buy it, you buy it.
From
The friends
where?
buy
From
it.
whom? From whom?
Well, there
Board
are
of
many
Elections.
sources.
Is it the Board of Elections provided?
You can get one from the Board of Elections, but it's usually not in great shape. So you can buy it from other organizations that have either cleaned it up and they, put it in a little better shape. It's not expensive,
How much is the ballpark?
maybe $700, $800, $600, somewhere around there.
So
I
Super
mean, you
Voters,
can't own it.
Super
You're
Voters,
basically renting it.
it's
It's a list of
active
people who
voters.
actively
It's
vote.
active voters.
Yeah.
It's a list of active votes.
And their telephone numbers, but not their email addresses.
Addresses, so that you can cross-reference it
Yeah,
against the database.
exactly,
Okay.
yeah.
See, I would rather get an email, reminding me of a vote than a phone call that is coming in at the exact wrong time, when I'm sitting to dinner, when I'm watching TV, or doing whatever. I prefer, because in the email, I have a choice. I don't have to open it. The phone, I have to answer it because I don't know who's called. I don't have caller ID.
Well, again, there's a parallel. So the email is not necessarily going to people to tell them to vote yes. Right? The email is going to people to keep them right on the buzz, keep them with the buzz about what's happening in the library, how exciting the library is, what the programs are, what's going on, and to keep them informed of what's going on with your new building, because your responsibility as a trustee is to inform everyone in town, not just the yes voters. But the group we're going to be working with will be to create that group of yes voters and keep track of the yes voters. Those will be friends, right? Probably. Not sure? Yeah.
Yeah.
How effective is a paper newsletter to the, we mail one out to the entire population of this school district, and I just wondered, is that an effective tool, or is it a waste of money for us at this point?
How many times a year do you send it out?
We send one out just prior to the vote hits the homes, about
It's
5
4
to 8
times a
days.
year.
No,
About
every
4
every
times.
Oh,
household.
sorry. Yeah.
4 times a
Sorry, I
year.
didn't answer your question correctly.
4 times.
Yeah, he sends it out quarterly.
So I think you answered that yourself. How many people come out and voted?
Yeah, right.
Well, that is not our only means of,
Right.
Yeah, but
of speaking to our people. It's just one of the things that we do, and I just wondered, in comparison, do you find it useful in other
Not really.
campaigns?
Not really. So those types of printed things are just. Did you use anything printed for your campaign?
No.
So here's the answer. So here's what the world looks like today. This is what the future looks like. This is what the world looks like.
A mother in our age group, she said to me after the election, the library doesn't advertise at all.
Right.
Despite I know everything you did, the legal notices, the Chronicle, the newsletter, the signs. She said, why don't they advertise
Right.
the vote? I think for our age group,
That's right.
30s, 40s, it's email and social media.
That's right. So, by the way, we've stopped calling it new media or social media. It's just media,
Oh, okay.
right? I mean, there are many libraries today that do nothing else besides use
It's gotta be on a screen.
Facebook and on a what?
A screen.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's got to be easy. Yeah.
You gotta see.
So, and again, if you look at the last national elections, we know how they won, and I mean, look what's going on already with 2016.
Yeah.
I mean, all they're doing is using digital resources already.
Yeah.
So, so it's a parallel track that we would be on, because again, you're responsible to let everyone know what's going on. We aren't. You would hire us to work with your advocate group, like the Friends, just to develop that database and to get people out to vote. So that's what we would do. We did do some advertising in Washingtonville, by the way. Was it the Record? Is that what it's called?
Orange
The
County
Orange
Post.
County Post.
Is that what it's called?
Orange County Post is the local one.
So do you read the
Washington.
Orange County Post?
No, the
When I
Times
lived in
Herald Records for
Washingtonville,
the
we
county.
did, but
What's that?
The Times Herald Records countywide. Did you do the local Washingtonville paper or the countywide paper?
Countywide paper.
yeah, that's
Then it was the
right.
Times Herald Record.
Oh, I think we did both.
Okay.
And do anybody here look at those papers?
Yeah.
I'm
No.
from
Yes.
Washingtonville originally, so I was
Okay.
following that. So
So we did do an ad in 1 week for the last 3 or 4 weeks. Did you see those?
the Post, yeah.
In the Post, yeah. I don't know how effective that is, but
They had a lot of letters to the editor in the Times Herald Record, which is the bigger newspaper.
well, we control that too. So we well, you want to win,
There
right?
we go.
So if you
How's
want to
that feel,
win,
Norma?
you've got to control these things. So we made sure that the letters to the editor were all banked, and they were written ahead of time, and they were, well, not all of them, because obviously some people aren't part of the, the friendship. But for the most part, we helped generate those, and then release them to the publisher of those papers at the right time. Similarly, we worked with them on the endorsement campaign. So I think they got the previous mayor, the current mayor, and when they would line up the endorsements and get the endorsements of people. So it all creates a momentum, right?
Mhm.
And the reason you want to create that momentum is not just to get the yes voters excited, but to also co-opt the no voters. You want them to look at what you're doing and say, they're going to win.
Mhm.
They're going to win. Why should I waste my time, going out and telling people not to vote for the Taj Mahal or whatever they want to call it? So-
Endorsement from who? The mayor?
Oh,
who else?
mayors, you name
Fire
them.
department or?
Sure.
Real-
Head of
oh,
Chamber of Commerce,
Okay.
The who's who of Goshen.
superintendent of schools, believe it or not.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, you need to get those people as endorsers.
I'm surprised they did.
Why? Well, it
I
wasn't
don't know,
easy, but why?
Usually people at that level don't take a position. I don't know, maybe that's just, I didn't notice in the past, but,
What do you mean they don't take that position? Here's a,
because they have their own agendas.
right.
And if we
And
don't
perhaps they
line
don't
up
wanna
with
take
theirs.
away from their own agendas by,
Well, most of them, it takes them a while. Some of them takes them a while to understand that the economic development of their town or area is probably the most important objective they should have. And when you have a library that generates, people coming in and parking and, using it, then you're generating the economic development of your town. So the library is an economic driver. We know that.
And once we start looking successful, they'll wanna get out in front of that.
yeah,
Okay.
sure.
That's a great point.
It is. No,
That's a
I'm
good-
not kidding.
That's right. That's a good point, because they can't afford at some point
To not support
to not
something that's a
suppose
big
it,
win.
whether it's their wife, their husband, or their kids, or their constituents, telling them they need to do it.
And the more constituents generating positive buzz.
Absolutely.
Right,
Also
the-
will-
Right.
The more they want to align themselves with something winning so
Right.
that they can get reelected, which is the whole point.
I mean, and the whole thing means I've been on the board now for 4 years. 4 years.
Boy,
And in that 4 years, and perhaps maybe 2 prior, our budget vote have all been approved.
Mhm.
So little by little, we have been, people are out there, and the feeling again is positive
Good.
with the library that we have not had. I mean, granted, some of those years we had a 0% budget
Mhm.
increase. This was before the 2% cap.
Mm.
But people came out and voted. They voted, and the budgets have been passing.
And some have voted no, even
No
with
matter
the
what we do.
0%
Yes,
increase.
yes,
Yeah.
0%, there's a handful, there's a diehard
There's
50
always-
people.
there's
that
always a
don't
no
know
vote,
what
but
to do.
But again, they have passed.
Yeah.
Whether it's passed by, I think this was our biggest margin.
It was our biggest
Yeah.
margin.
Yeah.
This was the least amount of no votes
Good.
I've seen
It
in
looked
for a long
nice,
time.
yeah.
Mm.
So
And did you increase your budget?
2%?
2%, that's a cap.
Yeah, you went to the max,
Mhm.
yeah.
Mm.
That's promising.
It is, yeah.
And we paid off the land even in years when we had 0% increase.
Mm-hmm.
So it's we weren't.
We've sacrificed.
We did.
Yeah, Matt was telling me a little bit. Right, you paid it out of you paid it out of your budget.
We did.
You didn't raise money for it.
No.
And we had a lot of people turning to the library when we had hurricanes and whatever.
And was anybody upset that you were using your operating funds to do that? No?
Well, they
No.
weren't operating, were they? No.
Well, your budget.
Oh, it
Yeah,
was
budget.
Yeah.
Your budget.
So,
Okay, good.
It was
Yeah.
Paul's.
It was Pauline's son, they got too much paid off for,
Good.
and her daughter.
And so, if I remember, and again, it was maybe 7, 8 years ago, maybe there wasn't an endowment, but I think the library did have some money.
It wasn't a lot,
No?
no, it
And
wasn't much at all,
today?
and it was, no, it was for the building proposition at the time,
Hmm.
'07. And it was broken out over 10,000 a year for 5 years or something like that,
Okay. And today,
nothing.
but
No endowment, no
we
nothing?
haven't pursued anything.
No gifts? no
We-
planned giving?
Not
Nothing?
that we're aware of.
We haven't started that yet,
Oh, okay.
so. We'll see.
Because even if you know, I'm saying it's not huge, 500, but that's still a lot. So you'd still need to think of how to do that in a structured way,
Mm.
because that's not easy either. Right?
Okay.
That could be a difficult, so you want to be careful of locking yourself into those kind of numbers.
Right.
Oh, yeah. Well, anything like that would be subtracted after we've gotten the bond approved.
Or,
To
or,
reduce,
or used for things that you don't, so the number you're gonna get from Paul is gonna be everything.
Everything.
Furnishings,
Everything.
F&F, everything
Right.
done,
Mhm.
right? So it could also be for things that are not included
Right.
in the building.
But we also have this building which we can sell, which is probably
That's the
worth between
plan.
500,000 and $1 million.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Oh, right.
Right, so we already own the land and we're selling this building once we move.
And the school, so the school district's fine. They don't want the money.
This isn't their, what do
This-
you mean?
Who owns
No,
this
no,
building?
we own it.
We own the
We own
building,
this.
we're
It's our
library.
autonomous, we are only a school district library because they collect our taxes for us.
No, I know how it works.
Oh, okay, yeah, you acted as if the school district owned the building and just.
what are you thinking?
Nothing.
No.
Well, in Warwick, they made some problems when Warwick tried to sell the building, and they had to come to a new MOU or a new agreement on when they sold it. But I understand.
Oh, I didn't-
It's
a
just
lot of people
I know
don't
it's just a
understand
pass.
it, that's
I know
why
it's just a
I explained it
pass
to
through,
you.
but still. Okay.
Right.
All right, that'd be nice. Yeah. So the most you can get for it, that'd be wonderful.
I think we already did discuss that, didn't we?
Yes.
I think we did, they're aware that that's part of our plan, the school district.
And they're not opposing; they're in favor.
They're in favor.
Yeah,
Because I think we
Yeah.
found in Washingtonville they weren't great, and in what was that other town?
Cornwall.
Cornwall, they were awful. The school board,
Yeah.
and they actively opposed it.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Actively.
Well,
Washingtonville?
it wasn't the
Was it
board
Cornwall?
that opposed it, it was members, right? It wasn't the board that came out against the Cornwall
Staff,
proposition?
Not formally.
No,
You mean
it
in
was-
Cornwall?
No, just what I
Cornwall.
heard, it was just a member or two that came out against it.
In Cornwall?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I think they had their own plans in Washingtonville. They've had their own plans too, and they were afraid that the referendum was going to coincide
See,
with their plans.
this is
We
this is
already
different.
discussed it, but, yeah. We've
Their
already
their
gone to the school.
vote is what, May?
May, yes.
Ours is
Next May,
November.
yeah.
Ours is
This
after
May.
theirs.
Oh, they're,
A couple of weeks.
oh, it is. Oh, they're going to build something?
No,
No, they
just
gotta-
a-
you
Just
know.
a regular
Yeah,
budget.
but they don't have a capital issue
Yeah.
in the near future.
Oh, good. Oh,
We don't
good.
have to deal with that.
Great. That's
Yeah.
real good.
So we're looking good, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
All
you're
positive.
looking good.
Other than not being on Facebook or email or anything like that, we're good.
Besides everything.
We have a junior friends,
Oh, good.
which consists of about
Which can't vote.
15
Yeah.
young people in the high school.
That's
I
fantastic.
suspect that they can generate a couple hundred votes because they are on all the media. And their families, other
Yeah.
kinds of families that use the library.
So in Washingtonville, we got the soccer league to endorse. We got the Little League to endorse. They also got the Teachers Union to endorse, which I think was a really big help. So yeah, those are all things that are part of that endorsement and part of what you want to make, that momentum that the no voters, back off when they see these things happening. And I said, I give up. Go ahead and do it.
PTAs, I think, would be a good.
Mhm. That too.
endorsement.
So that's basically, so it has to do with media, it has to do with building up the yes voters, has to do with building a separate organization that will work on it, right? And then executing get out the vote with door knocking, with telephone calls, with robocalls, the whole thing.
So Washingtonville and Warwick did robocalls?
Oh yeah, you have to.
Really?
Yeah, why?
Huh? Why?
Not to everyone, just the yes
Just the
voters.
yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Just most people hate robocalls.
Well, that's why you don't do it with most people. You just do it with the people you've already, the people who you have on your list, who they're identified and they know you're driving them crazy, and so you just go right up to the brink of getting them annoyed,
So
because they're going to come out and vote for it,
does the RCLS
no matter what you do.
Does the
No, it's just
RCLS
super
database have phone numbers as well as email addresses?
It doesn't have email addresses. Oh, it doesn't have phone numbers,
Oh,
right?
okay.
Does it?
We buy the super list.
Yeah.
That's where the phone
That's
numbers
where
are.
we're gonna get by that.
So again, in Washingtonville, we didn't merge those things. In Warwick, we didn't merge them either. They're kind of two different tracks.
And how often, for example, the robocalls, did they go out?
Once.
Okay,
Yeah,
good,
day before the election. That's it.
excellent.
No.
And how many, because I don't, where's the library calling? Don't pick it up. Huh?
Screw you guys, I'm not coming back.
Well,
You annoy them
well, we got
And
we
what
got
about-
someone locally who everyone knew, who had a really nice voice, because that's what we tell them to do. Have a really nice voice, and we script it. We write all the scripts for all these things. So script it so that it's like, my family and I are excited about the new library. We want you to be too. And I don't remember the guy's name, but and it's nice.
And
It's-
what about community forums? So we have one of those that we told the community we would be doing. How many did they have in Warwick and Washingtonville?
I don't know. We don't get involved in those.
Okay.
Paul did a couple things in both towns, but beyond that, why? No, I mean, beyond having the architect do a program or two or three, why would you do anything else?
Yeah, that's what we're.
You really don't need to do anything else.
Do you recommend or not recommend someone like our director going to the Rotary Club and speaking?
Sure, absolutely.
Is that something you recommend, or?
Yeah, no, you should. Yeah.
That would help
And then
get
they
them
can
behind
write a
it.
letter of endorsement.
That's right,
Right.
exactly.
Absolutely.
And put it on their Facebook page.
That's right.
Email it to everyone they know.
So don't get me wrong, Matt, by the way. In Washingtonville, it was not, I mean, Rosemary. She's fantastic. She's
Warwick, Washingtonville.
in Warwick.
Warwick,
Yeah,
right, right,
Rosemary's just
right.
one of the best librarians in the country, as far as we're concerned. So, and she understood very early on how those things work, and we did use the email. In Washingtonville, they did not use the email database the way I'm describing now. Parts of it, pieces of it, it was a little bit of a struggle.
But we could also use the email addresses to ask people if they opt for a digital copy of our newsletter so we could reduce the mailings. Right? Huh?
That would be lovely.
Yeah, it would.
So what would be really nice right now is to start an email newsletter wherever the database comes from. Whether you make it yourself, you get it from RCLS, but start it now. Get a contract with Constant Contact. Get a format. Make it nice and friendly. Not a lot, just small, brief, simple. Put Matt's picture. You see how Rosemary does it with her picture on it all the time. The intro is from the director. Make it intimate, make it friendly, make it welcoming, make it personal. It's a
Sorry.
personal appeal. People will vote yes because it's an emotional appeal, not because they've rationalized it or intellectualized it. That's how you win.
You mentioned constant contact, is it?
Yeah, there's, if they're newsletter companies, you give them, they generate it for you and
Oh.
They follow
right.
accepted spam requirements, so that if you receive mail from Constant Contact, your email provider won't block it because they trust Constant Contact, or some others.
Oh, so there's a bunch of them out there.
Yeah, so that it's using them as one of the best ways to get your email through. Otherwise,
Right, otherwise it ends up in someone's spam folder.
it adds more weight to it, the way spam works.
Okay.
And we're doing work right now in Trumbull, Connecticut. I don't know if any of you followed what happened to the library in Trumbull. No?
Mhm.
No, so they had some paintings. They had some paintings. A local dentist or doctor gave them this great collections that he had. It's worth like $300,000 or $400,000 of all these really nice paintings that people have done recently. And one of the paintings was of Margaret Sanger, Betty Friedan, Mother Teresa, right? And the local Knights of Columbus went nuts because Mother Teresa was in the same drawing, or same paint. You heard about it, right?
No, but you're telling me who they are, and Mother Teresa next to Margaret Sanger.
Well, not next to her. They're on, you know.
They're in the same.
But it was about women. It was about women leaders and
Sure.
inspiring women.
Sure, that's
So Knights of Columbus went nuts. They demanded it be taken down. So the mayor got involved. Unfortunately, it was really very controversial. The mayor tried to fire the library director. Eventually, while the mayor was there and they were holding a board meeting / town meeting, someone came in to face the painting while this was all going on.
Oh, no.
It was quite amazing.
Oh, that's awful.
And the reason I'm telling you this is because they needed to have, even before that, an email newsletter that was going out to, it's 30,000 people in that town, I think, that was going out to at least 10,000 or 15,000 people, just to have that level of support, right? And I think libraries, institutions, nonprofit institutions like libraries need to have that level of support today for a variety of reasons. So I think it's important to have today. It's 2015. We need to communicate with people where they are and how they are. That's my story. I'm sticking to it.
No, you're right. I mean, there's a whole generation who is on social media, media, and that's how they get all of their, that's why we have newspapers going out
And
of.
they are the taxpayers of the future,
Yeah.
and hopefully the library supporters of the future. Because if they're not the taxpayers and supporters of the future, goodbye libraries. I mean, if they don't want to pay their taxes and support libraries, we're all in trouble. All right, any other questions?
No?
Okay,
Thank
so
you.
whether you hire us or not, whether you want to work with us or not, or we want to work with you, do those things. Get those things happening, Take care and get moving on that, because you need to get them started now. All right, thanks.
Thank you.
Nice seeing you all.
Nice meeting you.
You're going back to Princeton
Yeah.
tonight? Oh,
Watch the cord.
what's
It's only an hour and 15 minutes, hour and 20 minutes.
It's 8:45.
Is it possible to get a longer audio cord so that we don't have to have it hanging? Just an extension on that cord.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, nice meeting you all.
Nice meeting you.
And you have this every time somebody does just to step over it, just get a little longer cord.
Somebody
Might
pick it
might
up
be
and
some-
step under it.
Sometimes you get lost with the longer cord, but it has to be tested out a little bit.
Okay, got it.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Nice meeting you.
Should we do committee reports while we
Yeah.
wait for Matt?
Carol, did you want to go through your vote report?
Well, I just wanted to mention that I passed out a report on the vote, gives you all the facts and figures that you will need to know. I know that you might not have had a chance to look it over, but there was some real positive things I thought about this particular vote, and that was the 7-1 margin that our budget passed. I have never associated with a vote that had that kind of odds. You know, it was just absolutely wonderful. I was really thrilled. I have to say that I agree with Alan that social media or media is driving, you know, some of these things. But I also agree with Ellen Mary in the fact that our negative votes were not there this time, and that's is partly because we have satisfied so many of our negative people by being open and honest about what our plans are, and we've eliminated the negative votes with knowledge. And I think that's the way that we would be able to win the referendum going forward, is the more honest knowledge that we give people, the better they can make a decision. And coming up with a new library over on the Salesian properties is a great idea that people will realize. So I disagree with Alan on the numbers that we're going to be needing and to make this work, but I do agree with many of the things that he said, you know, about how we're going to get there. Then, does anyone have any questions about this particular vote?
I do. You say there is an increase of over 900 addresses to the database?
Yes.
How is that?
That's a database that is kept not by us, but by a company that handles people that come into the Goshen School District. It doesn't have anything to do with anything that we do as a library. It's the school district. They're watching all the anyone that files at the post office or any new addresses that are developed. That's what that database is about.
It just seems like a lot.
It seemed like a large increase to me as well. But we just verified that on this last newsletter, how many are actually printed, 7,000, and how many were actually mailed out to the school district, and that was 6,900.
Of which 900 were new.
Yes, previous our number was 6,000. So
That's a lot better, you're right.
yeah, it's a large increase, but I can't tell you when the number 6,000 was last investigated. You know, I don't know if that number, that 6,000 was 3 years old, or you know, how long it took to go up, but our current number was 6,900, and previously it was just 6.
It just might explain why some people claim that we don't advertise enough.
Mm-hmm.
They weren't getting our newsletters.
That could be. They were in that 900.
They may have been, and still, we do get people that say they haven't received our newsletter or don't get our newsletter. We try very hard to make sure that we gather any information like that and pass it on to the people that own that database, so that anyone that wants a newsletter would be able to get a newsletter from us.
When you read there were 26 absentee ballots.
Yes.
Do you remember how many of those absentee ballots voted yes on the budget?
I do have that, those numbers upstairs. I do have that.
Because
But, and I have to tell you that the number was not 7-1. As the ratio was for walk-ins, the
it
absentee
might be like
ballots,
half and half or something.
yes, are much more
More no votes.
negative
Yeah.
than our regular voter.
So people sent in their negative vote.
Yes.
They went out of their
People that-
way to vote no, in other words.
Yes.
Okay.
We have motivated no voters.
That's,
Yes.
yeah.
We really
okay.
do.
It seems that,
There's just like this core group of curmudgeons who just vote no matter what we
Will absentee ballots be done for a referendum as well?
yes.
Everything.
Every vote,
we have to have.
absentee ballots are sent out, and they're sent out to those persons who have registered with the Board of Elections that they want a absentee ballot. And then aside from that, persons could come in and apply for an absentee vote ballot, and we give them to almost, they have to have a reason. They can't just say, I don't feel like coming out to vote that day. But if they had an illness that kept them at home, a broken leg, difficulty, maneuvering, that sort of thing, or if someone was, my girlfriend happened to be in Las Vegas this past week, so she was given an absentee ballot. someone might be away at college, they would qualify for an absentee ballot, or someone who's going on a cruise, or just someone who maybe goes into the city at 5 o'clock in the morning and is not back home, or doesn't feel they could make it in time, or doesn't want to take the chance that they wouldn't be back, in time. We would give them an absentee ballot. So we try to make it as friendly as possible for anyone who really feels as though they can't make it in during the polling hours.
But there's nothing they have to do to like prove.
They
defend-
have to
oh,
apply,
Yeah.
and then as soon as I read it and approve it, then they're given that vote.
Okay, so they don't have to
jump
jump
through
through
hoops.
hoops. Okay,
No.
all right.
No, in fact, we encourage absentee
Yeah.
ballots, and I was mentioning to Matt that we might want to do a little campaign on that coming up for the referendum, because sometimes people claim, I couldn't make it, for one reason or another, and it was a perfectly good reason for an absentee ballot.
Yeah.
We don't wanna miss them.
Mm.
Thank you.
But sometimes absentee ballots, though, you may see my numbers sometimes say that I received 30 absentee ballots, and the count was only 28 votes from absentee. So why is there a difference? And the difference is because sometimes people fill them out incorrectly, that voice their vote. On one of the particular votes that we got absentee this time, they voted for the budget and then voted for all 4 candidates. So that makes it invalid.
Everything's invalid at that point.
No, the budget is it's a separate line.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, that the budget vote counted, but the trustees was invalid.
Definitely understand.
So sometimes there's a thing, sometimes they forget to sign their proof packet, that invalidates the entire vote.
All right, any other questions? Thank you, Carol.
Thank you.
Should we go
Bounce
to
around.
director's report and come back to committee reports?
We can finish it up, and there aren't that many.
Yeah, there's not gonna be much.
There's
Okay.
nothing,
Yeah,
there's
yeah,
nothing
that's
much.
Anything
Just finish
from
it.
physical resources, community resources, human resources,
Well,
sunshine committee?
Community resources, when is the next newsletter? I need to know now.
Well, you know what, if we're gonna do an electronic newsletter, which is a good idea, we need to do, we probably should have signs up all over the library warning people that it's coming. Before we actually send one out, have an opt-in or opt-out email sent out to everybody, so that no one can complain that they didn't know about it, and then send a newsletter. And Constant Contact or MailChimp or any of them, you can do it once a week, once every 10 days or something like that, to schedule it. And you send them the information, they mail it out for you. And, but if we give people enough heads up that it's coming, eventually we might be able to get rid of the paper one, save ourselves several $1,000s a year. I promise you Constant Contact wouldn't cost nearly as much.
Yeah.
Of course, it's.
Can't have here. I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry, I was saying that before we launch an online newsletter, the email newsletter, we should put stuff up around the library, make it a couple of weeks, even put a letter in the paper, guess what we're gonna do? It's about time we caught up with the time, or whatever you wanna say, and warn people that we're going to do this, and eventually phase out the paper newsletter. and
When
save
you had
ourselves
asked
$7,000.
us once before if we wanted to go to an
Right.
electronic, we said no, because we like the newsletter.
Right.
I don't think we might phase it out altogether, because
No,
there
we'll
are some
probably still mail
patrons.
the one for the vote, I
There-
think that's what.
No, but there are some
Provided it's an
patrons,
option.
there are some patrons, and I'm
Mhm.
thinking of senior citizens who may not have
Oh,
a
yeah.
computer, who still want that paper.
Right, but
So-
what we should also do is have a paperless option, cause
No,
I do all my
absolutely.
bills and banking and everything
Absolutely.
paperless, and so
I
lots of
am-
people would prefer
I
that.
completely agree, but, there is a segment of the population that
Yeah.
will still need to get a paper newsletter, and we
Right,
have to
but
make
we'll still
contingency
probably
for
save
that.
ourselves thousands if we get
So,
most of them off.
how long would it take to get those emails from our CLS?
I don't think that would take long at all.
We have them in the week.
So I think if we get one out,
We know somebody up there. So,
Yeah, we have an inside man, so.
I think
Well,
it's
Jerry's-
as soon as
Jerry's up.
possible,
Buy him some lunch or something.
to try, testing the waters
Mhm.
ASAP.
yeah.
with, we could even put in all of the summer programs.
Mhm.
You know, that's something that people would wanna get, I assume, you know, what's happening this
Yeah,
summer.
that was our plan
Yeah.
with our
Yeah.
That's a good idea.
honky-tonk email list that we were coming up with, trying to avoid the moral conundrums of the other list, but,
Pushing people.
With, you know, a nice message from you, Michelle,
Right.
and, you know, what's going on.
I'd make it relatively short and sweet. To
Yes,
begin.
yes.
And do a weekly one and just
Awesome.
hit something each week.
Yeah.
if you want.
Yeah.
Include
Well,
it.
the thumb is you got 7 seconds to suck them in.
Include a link to our website and to like us
Facebook
on
page.
Facebook.
We can put that in
Director's
the
note and
newsletter.
your notes and then programs.
Newsletters
Mhm.
can have all sorts of cool stuff.
Mhm. Could we set a
But-
date by when we wanna accomplish this goal, this task?
yeah, I may have to
Yes.
think about it, you know, I have to talk to.
What's the
Email
date?
address and-
Before,
June.
before June first?
Why don't you
Oh, we could do it sooner
Take a
than
look
that.
at
We would
the,
have
Well, I
it.
don't know what his, what he has
get
on
on
his
the
plate.
Warwick list, get on their email list and see
Mhm.
what she's doing, how often she's doing it,
Hmm.
and so on.
Yeah, I'll take a look, see how they're running it.
so by June first, we can have at least one trial?
Yeah, I think we should be able to do that, sure.
What is her name?
Rosemary Cooper.
Rosemary. When I had a tour down there about a year ago, we were talking about referendums, and one thing that she said, I didn't understand it, but I think I understand it now. She said, we did not make a big campaign
Mhm.
that got the whole community all stirred up.
Yeah,
Right,
Basically, what he was saying is, what you wanna do is stir up the yes voters.
yeah,
right.
he's right.
And you could have, you know, the architect have some meetings and so on, and have a few things in the newspaper, but if you have a huge campaign, you're just gonna stir up the no voters.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's a good point. Jim.
You know, I was, it didn't make sense to me until he clarified what he was talking about.
Mhm.
If you're interested, she offered, I just met with her a few days ago, I went on a tour of the Wisner Library for a facilities class one time. And she said she'd be more than happy to come by a meeting if we wanted to kind of get some information from her, some of the wisdom of having done it.
We would.
Yeah, I mean,
Wouldn't
she's
we?
careful not to,
Right?
she,
Yeah, Kate.
she knows that every community is different. And not that I want the onus on myself, but, you know, she said really, they have to turn back to you. You know, I can say, this is how it worked where I was, and you can use some of that stuff, but ultimately, it's not gospel. You have to figure out what's gonna work in your community. And generally, the people in your building have the best sense of what's, you know, what's,
I think of all towns, Warwick is the closest to Goshen in comparison. so.
and the
Yeah,
library
population-wise,
size,
yeah.
population.
Well, and
Yeah.
the demographics
Demographics,
and
right, when I said that's what I meant, demographics, age and whatnot, income, yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah.
So June 1st will, you let me know.
Mhm.
Any thing to report from the Sunshine Committee at this point?
Sun is shining.
We owe you $20?
Still happy.
I think, were you
Carol still-
collecting?
Carol
You
hasn't
were
We don't need it
collecting?
yet.
You don't
Yeah,
know?
we could hit her up.
Ladies, it'll cost you $20
Mr.
today.
President, I'm wondering,
You didn't know,
Yeah,
huh?
next
We have a
meeting,
special
bring
send out
20 bucks.
resources,
Oh,
community,
We
and
have a
human
sunshine
resources,
fund.
there was a little negative.
For
For
send
the-
out,
There's
Yeah,
negative,
okay.
I
No,
think,
we were
you
just
know,
discussing the
we're
newsletter.
always
things
dealing
like
with
somebody's
physical,
in
well,
the
no,
hospital,
I
they
shouldn't say
send
that.
Flowers
No.
or.
I'm sorry. So you
The
had
staff is
nothing?
having
I mean,
parties
as
and
physical
donate
resource.
Well, the only other
Okay.
thing was the
The
fence,
defense.
Yeah, we're taking care of that.
and, but also the
But
fence over
that's
to Legion
support.
too.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah, who
Forget
picked that up?
Oh, it's
Was
gone
it
now?
gone now?
No,
we had it
it was
down.
leaning over, the spikes facing out into the street. And
I told Danny about it, maybe he
so,
gets
no,
it.
it could have been the park
Okay.
ranger
Yeah, these are
picked it
what
up,
it is.
but for a while it was at
Multi
about
is
30-degree angle out.
Mm.
And it's like, we should have taken this section.
So when they come back for the
Yeah,
wrought
At least there
iron
wasn't,
Yep.
there wasn't a deer.
railing, see if they can take a quick look.
No,
at it.
no deer in this one.
That's, thank
I'll
God.
ask him.
I
So
wonder
we're
if we
down
should
to the
just take
friends?
Friends?
Okay, what's up?
that.
But
It's-
wasn't there, on Salesian, wasn't there something about that school? We had a, did I,
They're
During
gonna
this-
demo the
Well-
school, that?
Yeah, but that's not our,
Jim, you called me up about that, saying you had heard that they didn't, the village or the town didn't, were not going to raise the building now? Is that-
I got a call
Ooh.
from Peg Lyons,
Okay.
and her husband's on the board, right?
Yeah,
The town board? Is it town board or village board? I'm not sure.
town board.
Town board.
Physical
physical
resources.
And they wanted to know if
getting dizzy, Karen?